Thanks to our speakers. Thanks to Jill for the documentary. Do we have questions? Yeah.
I've got a question. This is for Deano. What's the hardest thing about that case for you?
Question is for Deano Ware. What was the hardest thing about the Hosanna Tabor case for him?
I mean, at what stage? Because there was a lot of different stages. I think I was, no, I mean, I would think I was on the case for like 6 years or something like that.
Or could you expand? I mean, yeah, you're right. We've all litigated cases and there's different phases, but maybe what were some of the most difficult? I mean, some phases are more difficult than others, but are there any in particular that stands out?
I mean, to be honest with you, the hardest thing was just things I thought I didn't know. Because I was always afraid I was missing something. And I mean, I'm sure I missed a lot of things. I mean, if scholars were to look at some of my pleadings, they might laugh at how I got to the Supreme Court. But, you know, I said, look, I'm a lawyer. This is what I'm trained to do. I need to read this stuff, and I need to apply it. You know, I wasn't in a situation where I had the luxury of just reading it. I needed to read stuff and apply it. And that's what I tried to do. And I mean, there's a lot of times I just prayed and I tried to go by what, you know, what I felt the Holy Spirit was telling me to do or not do.
Other questions? Yes.
I have a question about, you talk about banding together as citizens, that we're more effectively together than we are separately. Do you see citizens organizations arising that you would recommend that people get involved in? Or do you see church members arising in citizens organizations together?
My only recommendation is study the issues out, know the people well, understand what their motives are, how it works, and be open-minded about making adjustments as you go. I don't have a specific recommendation about citizens groups or about how to go about being friends with other faith groups. There are those in the audience who might be able to answer that better than I, but I think when we reach out, we begin to learn and we begin to make a difference.
There are groups that do advocacy on religious freedom issues. My own personal thought would be to find out what groups have a reputation for being objective, for seeking fairness, for being knowledgeable, and for not being partisan political groups. I think if we align ourselves with partisan political groups, as Gary, as you indicated, I think we're walking down a dangerous path.
Yeah, the only thing I'll say is when I was approached by the Beckett Fund, I had an opportunity locally to be involved in some cases that got media. I'll say it like that. And one of the things I discovered is sometimes when a case gets media, people start to call you, but they have their own agendas, right? They're not so much concerned with the case as they are with the cameras. And so I was very apprehensive about allowing them to help me at first and take the case because I wanted to protect my church, you know, and I was afraid that they would kind of soak up the cameras and it didn't really matter whether we won or lost. They would simply have gotten some media. So, and also at the time I got contacted by the church synod had finally decided, I guess they were going to get involved. And so they had a firm in Illinois contact me. So the firm in Illinois said, no, give us the case. The Beckett Fund said, you know, we're here to help. So then I talked to the pastor in the congregation. The pastor naturally wanted to go with the church in Illinois. And I told the pastor, I said, look, I've been doing this case all these years, and they have not helped me. I said, they knew about the case because one of their officers got deposed. I said, this is the first I've heard from them. I said, now, you can go with them if you want to go with them, but I'm going to be off the case. I'm through, and, you know, whatever happens from this point, God bless you. I said, but I've looked at the Beckett Fund's agreement. I've looked at what they're willing to do, and they basically said, you know, we'll give you as much help or as little help as you want. And I just felt led to go with them. And that, I made that decision. And the pastor basically in the congregation told me, okay, Deano, we're going to trust you and go with you. Eventually, they all worked together. We all started to work together. But that was something I was very concerned about. I did not just want somebody coming on the case to get some media and then, well, the result comes down months later. Oh, sorry, we lost Deano.
Your comment reminds me a little of the joke about the lawyer who said he'd never lost a case. Said, I've had plenty of clients who have, but I, but I never have. Other questions? Yes.
I think about these issues from a lot of different points of view, and yeah, sometimes when a certain spirit is on me, I wonder if we might, and so this is my question, do you think we could learn from this, or is it the wrong kind of direction, the wrong kind of spirit? So I remember King Christian of Denmark. Now this is a very different situation, I'm not trying to compare, but King Christian of Denmark, when Adolf Hitler decreed that the Jews had to put a black band on their arm so that they could be identified, and he, being the king, he had to announce it, and he said, okay, all the Jews have to put a black band on your arm, and then he put one on his arm as well, and he just had these ways of doing things that were, well, I don't know how to explain it more than that, but I guess I'll see if you think that we can learn anything from that.
From the example of putting on a black armband.
Well, so the courts tell us we have to do certain things, and do you just do them in goodwill, or is there?
Well, you've asked a actually quite a profound question about civil disobedience, and I think it's worth understanding about civil disobedience. As citizens, we have a duty to abide by the law, and we teach that as well within our religious faith, that we need to abide by the law. When it comes to civil disobedience, there are ways that are appropriate and ways that are not appropriate. I think it would never, though, or I can't imagine a case where it would ever be the case that we ought to disobey the law in order to manifest civil disobedience. Others would disagree, but that's my own feeling about it. I think that if we operate within the law and become involved with government and with the institutions of government, with the legal system, that we can find appropriate ways that are meaningful to effect social and legal change. Doesn't mean we have to do it happily. I think we bear with cheerfulness the negatives that we're made to bear, but we, in a good spirit, but not without protest. That would be my own view of it.
Other?
So I'm, I guess, a little younger than most of you. So I was wondering what, it's hard to motivate a lot of people in my generation to care about this. So what advice would you have for me to, when I'm in the discourse with my peers, what I could say to them and what I can do myself to become more engaged and to make more of a difference?
Deano understands the youth better than I do because he's got more of it. So.
You mean I have more of it left?
More of it left.
I think, especially when it comes to young people, I have a son who went to Western Michigan University and just graduated recently, and he had a major in religion. And we have some interesting debates, okay? And the only thing I ever try to do with my son is I play the devil's advocate, because I always encourage him to try to respond to the most vicious attacks, or sometimes just the most soundly logical attacks that you can present. One time we were in a restaurant and he was telling me about his worldview, and I said, yeah, well, you know, that's your worldview, whatever. And I said, other people have their worldview. He said, well, you people are in our way. I said, oh, so now we get to the crux of it. We're in your way. So what does that mean now? We have to be eliminated? Because you have this egalitarian worldview, but if I don't agree with you, we're in your way. And I think when it comes to young people, you have to, whether it's your friends or not, take them to the ultimate extreme of their argument. Okay? Accept their argument, then push it. Accept their argument, then push it. And that's what I kept doing to him till finally he busted out, well, you all are in our way. And then he didn't want to talk anymore when I asked him that. I said, so what? Because one of the things we were arguing about is sometimes when it ultimately comes down to violence, right? That sometimes in society things are resolved through violence if we don't resolve them another way, right? And so I was trying to explain to him, even on your side of the debate, there comes a point when now we're in your way. Whether we're conservative or whether we, you know, are pro-government or whatever, whether we're people of faith, now we're in your way. We're in the way of your worldview. And I think even with your friends, if you can get them to that point before there is violence, before they associate with violent groups, they will have to pause in their tracks and say, and I think one of the speakers said this, whoa, I didn't mean that. Right, when we were talking about the Holocaust, well, I didn't mean that. And so the only reason I say that is sometimes let's just accept your premise and then let's take it a little further. Okay, I'll accept that, and let's take it a little further. And that's the only thing I can tell you just from dealing with my son. I mean, he gets real upset with me because, you know, I was in debate in high school. I mean, that was another thing I excelled at. I was in the paper as a state champ. So.
Thank you for your questions. Thanks to our speakers, not only for their messages today, but for the examples they've set.